Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast.
Energy, frequency, vibrations. Everything, every atom, object, and living thing is in constant motion, vibrating at a specific frequency. These sound like New Age or mystic philosophies to some, but even to Einstein, he's quoted as saying, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it." This is not philosophy, this is physics. According to some esoteric teachings, energy, frequency, vibrations, call it what you will, may be sensed, measured, and manipulated for either good or bad. Some claim that understanding such knowledge about these energy fields may bring us closer to validating certain mystic, New Age, or even paranormal phenomena. Join us as physics meets metaphysics in this episode of Wild and Weird Radio.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. Today's episode, we are going to be covering a wide range of topics that cover energy. So you can expect this episode to be a little wild, a little weird, but definitely over 9,000. Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, seen that. That was awesome.
So how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Had a really good Thanksgiving. How about you guys?
Mine was
I
great.
had to work
How was yours,
Thanksgiving.
Jesse?
I had to work Thanksgiving, so
Yeah,
it was
me
it was
too.
good.
I did
Yeah,
not.
me too. I worked Thanksgiving. I think me and you actually worked a really similar shift Thanksgiving. I didn't get home till midnight. You probably got home a few hours later than me.
I got home at I think 4:30, 5 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah. So I went to bed maybe 2 hours before you got home, I think.
Yeah. That's not good.
I remember working retail that in the holidays. That was, a lot of people hated it, but we made it kind of fun where I
Oh
worked.
yeah.
It was like
Yeah,
a party, you know.
we make it fun. For those of you guys that don't know, I work part-time at GameStop just for fun. It's a blast. And we have a good time. And we did the same thing. I cooked Thanksgiving dinner and brought it in for everybody to eat because everybody was there on Thanksgiving. And we had a blast. The staff that's there, we all get along. And what's funny is they're actually all fans. So guys, thanks for listening to the show.
Wait, you have
And
fans?
the Wild and Weird Radio has fans. They think I'm just okay.
Jeez. Wow.
So, but yeah, I
Terrifying.
wish I was back working in the restaurants and stuff on Thanksgiving. That was even more fun, being able to actually, eat on the run
Yeah.
instead of having to hide away and eat and stuff. But
I have like a little closet beside my bar, and I pop in there and just like eat real quickly and then go back out to the
Yeah.
bar. So,
right.
That's awesome, though. I mean, so we all had a pretty decent one's what you're saying, even though some of us had to work, right?
right.
Yeah, and because of the holiday, things did get a little wonky, and we didn't get to record our typical recap of an event that we were all just at, which was Cryptid Con in Lexington, Kentucky.
That's right.
So I want to give everybody a little bit of a chance to talk about that, some of the callbacks to the show, things like that, highlights for you guys. What was some of the big moments for you all?
Who's first?
Ron, you go
Yeah.
first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
No.
you go first.
Well, my I guess the most fun that I had at the whole show, meeting
Was
all
Friday,
the people,
right?
obviously, but Friday it set up, yeah. When Renee came over, that was a treat. That was just amazing to actually get to talk to Renee Holland that long. with no one else in the room.
And for those of you guys who've never had the opportunity to meet Renee Holland, this was actually one of the first conventions that she's ever done.
See, I didn't know that.
So the only people who've ever got to spend time with her are people who've actually either work with her in her day-to-day job with as a biologist, or people who've actually been on the show. And I had the privilege to be able to be on the show and hang out with her and spend a good bit of time. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Ron would absolutely get a kick. Well, when she showed up Friday night, we just started talking, and it went from there. And she was with us for like
2 hours
from
almost.
from 9:30 until
11.
10 till 12.
Wasn't it
10
like
till 12.
11:30? Oh,
We made it back to the room at 10 till 12.
Yes, because we had to
And
do those, had to get the rest of those things made. That's right.
yeah.
And she didn't want us to leave then. So
No, she didn't. We would have kept going had she had we not had stuff to do. But yeah, go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
I just think she's one of the most fascinating people that I've actually had a conversation with. You have a lot of conversations with people in this trade. You get to go out and you get to talk to people. Some people are genuine. Some people are just portraying themselves as they want you, to think they are. She was 100% genuine. She literally, we talked about, all the links between these phenomena and how they could be similar to this and that. And it was amazing. And I really look forward to, getting her on the show someday. I mean,
Which, guys, she 100% confirmed she will be on the show with us.
We just have to figure out when.
We got to catch her. I think we're going to try to do it in February. So that'll be a fun show, guys, because trust me, it is not going to be what you think. Those of you all who have watched Finding Bigfoot, she is billed as the skeptical scientist, but she's only skeptical.
So many stories, doesn't she?
One thing. Yeah. She's only skeptical of one thing, and that is that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature that we've not got registered. So everything else is on the table, and that's what's really fun.
Just for the stories of working with the indigenous people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth a listen just for that, because
absolutely.
Oh my goodness. That was, that was amazing. But I go on for days about that, and I'm going to stop doing that because I sound like a fanboy.
But you are.
I am.
You are.
I really am.
So Jesse, what was yours? What was your big takeaway from the weekend?
So Joe and I, we wandered around the entire time. We wandered the entire place, just back and forth for the entire 2 days. We got there Friday night and met up with you guys for a little bit. We met Renee, but we had to get back to our hotel because we were beat. We had a long drive. So we got up early on Saturday and just started wandering around and meeting like literally everybody. So it was just really cool to meet all the new people that are getting involved in the whole cryptid space right now. I mentioned before that we went to Crypticon in 2018 and it was a completely different animal. It was just tiny compared to what it was this year. And there's just so many creative people that are involved in the whole cryptid space right now. And there's a lot of creative like artists and makers and just every which way. I think that was really cool. And it's really cool that there's so many people that are so enthusiastic about all of these topics and all of these subjects. And it was just fun to wander around and meet everybody that you've met on Instagram and like become friends with online. And then you get to meet them in person and everything like that. And you can just have the weirdest, most off the wall conversations, and it's perfectly normal to everybody.
Yeah.
I think that was like one of the best things for us. But yeah, we just wandered around for the 2 days and, handed out t-shirts and just talked to everybody. We just had a really, really good time. And we bought a ton of art. So we're gonna have to make space on our walls for all of the art and prints and everything that we made. And we're just excited to go to another event.
Yeah. Just I think my biggest takeaway from the whole weekend was one, getting to catch up with old friends. The first one. Two is I really got a chance to take a look at everything and see how much things have changed in the 4 short years that Wild and Weird West Virginia has been around and been going out to shows. When we first came in, every show you went to, it was the same group of people as far as vendors would went. You know, you all the same artists every time you went somewhere. It was the same people selling stuff, all that. 2020 completely changed that dynamic around, and now there are literally hundreds of new people that we've not met, and a lot of them are getting into these bigger shows now because there were a lot of other vendors who are no longer doing these things. They got away from it, so it opened up a space. These people come in, and some of the artists we were seeing are absolutely phenomenal, and it was really, really cool being able to see some of that stuff. Then seeing all of the podcasters and the bloggers and vloggers and all those people walking around documenting this stuff. And what was really funny is there were a lot of folks who were like, wow, this is just kind of odd seeing this. But now Ron and I have one, we've been doing that for years, but two, from a vending perspective, Ron and I have been on the road for 14 years next month. Okay. And
Don't remind me of that.
so right. And so we've seen at these big massive shows, and like when I say massive shows, I mean shows that absolutely dwarf anything that the cryptid community really has going on other than Mothman. And it's because it's the reptile community. You know, it's the reptile community is like this entirely different animal. It's this whole subculture. And if you go on YouTube and just type in reptiles, you're going to get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of video makers, podcasters, vloggers, things like that. And how to it people will flood your feed. Whereas when you go and you type in the cryptid stuff, you just get, you know, a couple dozen. And but it's nice starting to see that same kind of dynamic fall in and flood into the cryptid community, because we know what that does for the community at large, because we have been a part of a completely different community and watched the growth and changes that have occurred over the last almost 2 decades, and seen the metamorphosis start to occur here in this community. It's sky's the limit. There's room for room at the table for everybody to come and be a part. And it's going to be really, really cool to see what happens in the next 4 or 5 years based off what we already know happens in this kind of a dynamic with the community.
I think that it was handled very well. I thought this show was awesome. There were some people who we got to meet. It was their first time to be at one of these things.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to remember them. Who was it? It was Greg and Gabe. Remember them?
Oh yeah, Greg and Gabe. They were great. We told them we'd give them a shout out on the show.
That's right. Greg and Gabe were good enough to come over, and man, they hung out at the table for a while. Not only did they pick up some stuff, they really hung out at the table for a while. And he got some art, and he wanted one of the ones that had sold before or whatnot. And
he came back into the already sold.
It had already sold, yeah. But what was really cool, and you don't know this, is he sent us a message afterwards. And I'm just going to read a part of the message, and we'll go from there. But this really is why we do what we do. Okay. It was truly great to meet you, Joe, and Jesse at CryptidCon. It was our first con, and the energy was amazing for sure. I just wanted to say thanks to you and Joe for taking the time to speak to a guy and his 9-year-old son, telling us about your experiences and the stories behind some of the casts you guys had, because we took our cast collection. It was because of people like yourself, Joe and Jesse, that made that weekend so spectacular for 2 novices wanting more. And it goes on and on. And yeah, guys, nothing There is nothing better than that. That
No.
is the mission. That was our mission, the paranormal ambassadors, the ambassadors to the paranormal. That sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
And
really sums it up.
exactly what we did this weekend is what we've been doing for ages.
Yeah, there's nothing new. It's just that more people are seeing it now.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel pretty good, you know.
The more people that feel comfortable being part of this, the better it is for everybody. The more eyes we have on this, the better it is for everybody. You get different perspectives. Everybody supports each other, and it's, you know, you never know when you've got like a kid that comes up to your table and picks up those casts and looks at them, you know, that sparked something in them. And maybe down the road, that's going to be the kid that goes out there and makes that discovery that's going to change everything.
Yes, and that is exactly what it's all about, and that is why we do what we do. That's why we, did the school thing. That's why we're trying to get the other stuff off the ground for next year. Amazing stuff. And while we're on the subject of shout outs, let's not forget who was it? Teresa and Daniel, who came from Germany. Guys.
Yeah. I've actually been talking to her on Instagram the last couple days. And she wanted me to send some other pictures of different stuff that we'd done and pictures we had with them. And that was really, really cool. Cool. They came by. It was the first time they'd been in the room that we were in. And they didn't know it was there. So they walked in as we were packing up and tearing down. We stopped them because they didn't want to impose, thinking they were getting in our way. But again, we've been vending for ages. So we're like, yeah, no, we stopped what we were doing and worked with, talked to them, hung out. And she asked about, well, yeah. So what was really funny was she asked about what kind of a deal we could do for two of the things. Oh, yeah. And so we made a deal. And then once they paid, I gave them like 3 or 4 more different things and said, here you go. Now take these to Germany with you. So that was really cool. And they were super nice people. And like I said, she's been speaking with me on Instagram, and that's been fun to talk with her. And she really enjoyed it.
That was awesome. So that's kind of the rundown on what's going to be called, I guess, the Wild and Weird News segment that we're going to be doing from now on.
Yeah.
That's kind of the first one. And I couldn't think of any better news, really, than to cover what we just went through because, all of us were there. And it was pretty cool, guys. I really look forward to the next one. Just get back out there on the road was, man, that's the first show in 2 years, like of that caliber,
Yeah. And before we wrap up the news thing, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came to CryptidCon, that stopped by the table, especially those of you guys that stopped by on Sunday and you guys picked up some of Wayne's artwork. You guys really came out there and you filled in a gap. And Amanda, Wayne's daughter, was there selling some of Wayne's prints and things like that at our table. And that was just fantastic. You guys came out and really showed her some support, and we cannot say thank you enough. Nope. That was amazing.
So yes. I just wanted to ask, do you have some of those signed prints available for people to purchase now?
You can purchase them on the road. That is the only way you can get them.
Okay, so no online purchases of those. Just
no online purchases at all. You got to pick them up face-to-face sales only.
And the next one will be in Kentucky, correct?
Yep. We're right back in Lexington on December the 4th at Kentucky Reptile Expo, and we will have those out with us then. So let's go ahead and dive into the so-called meat and taters of the episode.
Meat and taters? I know it was Thanksgiving, but come on. That's
so anyway, we're talking about energy tonight, guys.
I have a little bit of energy tonight, Joe.
Oh, where'd you get your energy from, Ron?
I won't talk about that, Joe, but I will tell you this. I found this amazing new drink. It was awesome, and I'll tell you about it after the show.
See, I thought that you met that bear over in Lexington, and you guys kind of hooked up over in Lexington.
You're the one who visited Cocaine Bear, and we're going to leave it right there, girl.
I'll tell you guys where I got my energy for tonight, and I got my energy tonight from Coffee with Cryptids. And you can get your coffee with cryptids from Creep Geeks Podcast. You can just go to their website or contact them on Facebook, pick up a bag of my personal favorite, the Bigfoot Bold Roast. Some good stuff. You won't be disappointed.
That's the one I had too, by the way.
That's the one I had. I got one of those too.
It's weird.
How about it?
It's energy. What? It's energy.
Synchronicity. Synchronicities.
But actually, it's for a bold roast. It's incredibly smooth. It's delicious. And I usually drink my coffee black because I just like a giant cup of coffee first thing in the morning. And the bold roast is completely smooth and delicious. And I love it. I absolutely love it. The people at Creep Geeks are amazing. And the coffee is top notch.
Yep. Omi gets to go hand select the beans, and they get roasted, and they go into the bags, and then they come to us, and then we drink them. So you guys need to get yourself a couple bags, get some samples too while you're at it. Try some of the small bags of different flavors, and trust me, you're gonna like it because it's amazing. So, energy. The law of vibration. Now, when we say the law of vibration, we don't mean something you're going to get handcuffs slapped on you with. We're talking about the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, the law of vibration. So basically what it means is that objects are constantly in motion. They're always vibrating at a specific tuned frequency that is unique to each thing, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember learning that in school, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, when we start getting into vibrational energy, we start looking into not just the alternative health stuff, but we start looking into science. Science is really advancing.
Stop right there, because I got a really quick story that you just made me remember that this is funny. I don't know if anyone else ever did this. I remember having that conversation with our physics teacher. Everything's vibrating, right? Everything's got a frequency. Was I the only person who thought that if I could somehow manipulate that vibration, that I could literally pass something through my desk? Just guess.
No.
I mean, doesn't it make sense that you could do that, right? If you vibrate, the molecules in just the right way, that you could pass it through. My luck is I would get stuck.
The writers of The Flash thought it was plausible.
Well, I'm not one of them. But good enough. Go ahead, carry on. Sorry, that just sparked a memory.
Okay. So everything vibrates at a very specific frequency. There's been a lot of research done on, you could almost call it frequency tuning, which would be what each different object vibrates at in its static form. So before it's excited, before there's any kind of outside pressures placed on it, what frequency does a thing vibrate? I'm sure everybody has watched some of these they're cathartic YouTube videos where you have these ferrofluids and then they blast them with sound frequencies and they create these sacred sacred geometric patterns. That's the word.
That's the word.
And really ultimately what it is it really is sacred geometry. When you look at those patterns, they're the same patterns that you see in sacred geometry. Coincidence? I think not. Now, Ron, tell us a little bit about an author named Shannon Kaiser and what kind of work.
Kaiser? Oh, you mean the spiritual author?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the speed and rate of which something vibrates is referred to as the frequency. And you've heard this all before, guys. Anyone who's into kind of the new age stuff knows what that means. Frequency, vibration. And it sounds a little hokey, doesn't it? I mean, honestly, back when I got into some of the ways of thinking that I've had, follow the data, I didn't quite believe in any of that stuff. I mean, I thought crystals were pretty. I collected them. I used to be drawn to so many rocks it wasn't funny. I mean, I picked them up all my life. It was later that I learned that why I was picking those rocks up, or why it seems that I'm picking those rocks up. But the whole thing is that it's not as hokey as it sounds, and these vibrations can possibly, some people believe, do everything from heal you to, manifest some forms of energy, desires, and wants. It almost sounds like magic. But the funny thing is, there's a little more to it than that. There's just, that little bit of fact mixed in with a little bit of mysticism. And it makes you wonder how, they came up with this stuff. But, the whole idea behind the law is not only that we all have specific vibrational frequencies, which is what you had said, but we can manipulate and attune that frequency and energy. And I know I'm sounding like a 1970s guru right now, but that's kind of the crux of how it works. And, all these different ways of manipulation of energy. And Joe, as well as I do, there is lower and higher energy, because we used to be in a place where there was very low energy. And we know for a fact that energy was very contagious.
It was.
And, you would go in with this, you try to have this positive, attitude. And that's the thing, to try to keep this positive attitude or keep your energy up, I guess, is what it comes to be known as. We were doing it without really knowing what we were doing. And, in a way, I guess. But it's kind of like, the higher the energy, the more positive it is, lower the energy, more negative it is. That's what I'm getting at. So the whole thing is, to basically try to get your energy up, to be more positive or to be balanced. And all this goes over into, many of the mystic arts.
You're going to see a lot of blending of terms and blending of phrases that will go all the way through this conversation tonight. So when we talk about frequency and we're talking about energy is commonly thought of as electricity, right? Like when we say energy, we think power. We think power bill. What's the power bill? The price of the electricity. So we're looking at various different types of energy, be it sound waves, vibrational waves,
photons,
electrical fields, magnetic fields, different types of tectonic fields, all that kind of the activity, the vibration, the electricity, all these different types. So we're going to be using some similar terminology, but it's all going to be in the same vein. So as we keep talking about energy here, we started measuring the human body a good while back. We understood that the human brain was just pulses of electricity. The way it functioned was just through pulses of electricity. Well, us being humans, we like to throw rocks at things, and we're like, hey, what would work really well to like execute people? Electricity, because it disrupts the electrical pulses in the brain, overloads it, fries it, because the maximum power that a human brain can really handle is very, very low, because our output's like 20 watts. So anything over that, you're getting kind of in the squirrely zone overload, and you're gonna blow a fuse essentially. So when they hit you with 10,000 volts, it's lights out. Now, when we start looking at the body's electricity, because our heart is on a pulse, it just bursts of electrical waves, causes our heart to trigger and beat and do its thing. Same thing with our brain. We're sending these electrical signals from our brain to our extremities. Then our heart's doing the same thing, boosting blood out to those very same extremities. Does that produce any kind of visible, without giving the word away, does that produce any kind of visible, measurable thing?
A quantitative output of a measurable status, perhaps?
Maybe. That might sound the big word.
Jess,
aura.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jess, why don't you, weigh in on that part?
So I kind of want to take back just a hair here.
You can take back as much as you want.
You mentioned, Ron, that, we're talking about things that seem very metaphysical and very mystical and everything like that. But we're also talking about science. For millennia, these mystical things were always used to explain things that were later described as science. You know, this mystical type thing is science. It's what mystical stuff becomes science when things are discovered and we learn about these things. So they're not that different. They've always been the same, and we don't know everything yet. And so we have all of this phenomenon right now that some people may laugh at and say, oh, this is all mystical mumbo jumbo, but we don't know what we're going to learn in the future that may lead us to turning this mystical mumbo jumbo into actual hard science.
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, so much of alchemy. I mean, I'll just leave it right there. That's all I really need to say. Alchemy, you know, it began in a kitchen, literally, right? And then it became everything from chemistry to cooking.
Yeah.
To moonshine.
Because we're in West by God, Virginia.
Dang Skippy.
Well, you know, we are.
She's still in Appalachia, so it counts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, just like some moonshine, too, I'm sure. Anyway, if you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for this. And it's all just terms. We've used that before. It's all terminology.
Yep.
You know.
And the terminology just changes.
Mm-hmm.
As you were talking about earlier, Jess, you know, we've talked in the past on here about how magic is science that we just don't understand yet.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And essentially this all started off in a real metaphysical way, but now it's being studied by these Ivy League schools, which is another topic that we've gone over before with their parapsychology colleges at some of these Ivy League schools. Now, we were talking, can you see auras? Now, you'll hear some people say that they can visibly see auras on people. Maybe. I'm not saying they can't. I can't. I've never, that I know of. I've felt the thing, you know, I've felt the difference in the frequency in the room and the difference in energy in the room, but visibly seeing like somebody like emitting light, like they're being transfigured. I've not seen that. But there are ways like Carillion photography that I know Ron's played with a little bit that has some, you know, results, I guess you could say.
Well, it's kind of like the whole thing with you know, I guess remote viewing and out of body experience that, you know, they did with Stargate. It worked, but they didn't know why. And, you know, that's kind of where you are with this kind of stuff. It's like, it works. It's been proven. I mean, it's not 100% every time, though. So you can't say it's, oh, you know, it's absolute, you know, we know how it works. And science likes to know exactly how something works before it admits that it's real. We don't know how it works. And I don't know that we actually will for some time. But Carillion photography works. It absolutely works. And it's very demonstratable. I did it years ago. That was, gosh, that's been over 20 years. You know, I built my first Carillion photography machine. And it worked just like you see. I mean, I had access to a darkroom. So I did it the old way. Today, you're supposedly able to do it with digital. I've never really done that. If any one of you guys have ever did that, I'd really like to see your results. I mean, I've seen some shots online. It looks
There's apparently people that travel around the country and go to different festivals and things. And there's like a setup that you can put together, and it's like $16,000 to do on-site mobile aura photography. So it definitely sounds like a Bonnaroo type thing. But it's and I think a lot of times they use a Polaroid camera for it. So you have an instant photo out with the aura, and then the person that does the photography will do the reading on the aura, where different colors of the aura mean different things of what kind of energy you're putting out, what kind of maybe where you're at in your life, what you were, and where you're going, and how you can kind of correct that. But yeah, so it's like a very expensive setup to do it that way. But the old way seems like it's a very basic put together thing. And I was reading a few things about this, and I ordered a book as a result of this called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. Just this. And I was like, I love anything with Russia. and psychic phenomenon. So I was like, done, sold. So, but they discuss aura photography in this book and how it's done, and it's a very rudimentary process when it first began, and it can still be done in that rudimentary process, which you have done before.
Oh yeah. I mean, anyone can do this too. That's the funny thing about it. This isn't like one of those things where, oh, you got to be a, psychic, or you've got to, have contact with extraterrestrials to make it work. It's nothing like that. Anyone can do this. Don't do the hands.
So
anyway.
Now, talking about the photography, we've got the ways that you can allegedly measure these aura fields using photography, different styles of photography or different imaging techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there machines that can actually detect?
Yeah, Jess has some, actually. We all have some. The tri-field meter is a great one. Yep. That'll actually detect the human energy field. Absolutely.
Talk about it. Like, I mean, I know it does, but tell us how it does it.
Well, I don't, I didn't prepare all that, but sure, why not? Basically, what it's doing is it is detecting the power output of the human form. Now, that's typically around 8 hertz or so. It's important to understand that most of the radiation and power that a human body gives off is really in the infrared range. So humans produce measurable EMF, and that is what we can detect. So that's what you're going to pick up with some of these devices. You also pick up the static fields, so you have to kind of play with those things to figure out what you are picking up. Can I say that we can go over to a human body and determine, which part of the aura is red or green or blue? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we can pick up the actual electrical field of the body. Well, EEGs can do that too, right? So we know that the power of the body is real. There's a vibration that is going on inside. So, yeah, there are things that can measure this. Again, that part's science. And I think that's where it gets weird, because now we get to mix in the mysticism with that science.
Right. And there's actually on the latest season of Ancient Aliens, there was a guy who was actually able to manipulate his own energy while attached to a device, and you could watch it spike, and they could basically tell him what to do with these levels of energy, and he would make it do it. And it was pretty impressive to watch. He was one of the few people that had that kind of a control that could be measured over the energy, and it was pretty impressive.
I believe that they've done that with Shaolin monks too, right, guys?
Yes.
Yes, there's people that meditate that can control their brainwaves in such a way that they can spike them, that their body can put out like intense amounts of heat. This has been scientifically cataloged that people can do this. People can do amazing things if they meditate enough and have enough control over the power of the brain. And they can put out these electrical signals and actually manipulate it right before your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it works on biofeedback. That's why biofeedback is so important. And what you were saying, Joe, is can we measure it? Well, we need to be able to measure it in order to be able to know that we're actually affecting it. It's kind of that mind over matter thing,
So what kind of effects on machines has this type of energy had that is being emitted by the human body? That's a really interesting topic to go into, because I'm actually one of those people that has weird effects on batteries and watches and technology. So essentially what happens, the best way I can explain it based off of what I've read is that the human body emits energy. There are certain people that emit energy in an erratic way that actually has negative effects on modern technology. I'm one of such people. My cell phone.
Oh, you're like Uri Geller. Can you bend spoons too?
I wish I could bend
spoons.
Have
you tried? Have you tried? Look,
I haven't tried since The Matrix came out.
look, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. 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 I'm doing it
There you go. But I kill phone batteries. I don't wear watches. I have killed watches ever since I was little, even the ones that like get charged up by your motion, so the kinetic energy watches. I set off street lights. The watch and the phone are probably the most detrimental, because literally in a year and a half's time, a brand new cell phone battery, like my cell phone battery, will not last full length compared to, say, my wife's cell phone. Exact same phone, exact same amount of charge time. I don't use mine nearly as much as she uses hers, but mine will die before hers does. Now that our phones are a few years old, my phone won't stay charged for longer than, I don't know, 5-6 hours on a full charge. And now it will if I leave it away from me, but if it's in my pocket, it's toast. But yeah, watches, couple months on me, they're gone, no longer working. Even when you put a new battery in, they won't work. But the streetlight thing, that's a weird one.
You know, a lot of people, we did a post on that last
did.
year, remember?
Yeah.
And so many people said that happens, you know, so that's something.
Now you gotta be careful though, because a lot of your modern streetlights anymore, they have solar or light detectors on them.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're driving, you can still kick these things off just by your headlights. If you have really bright headlights and your lights illuminate the pole enough and illuminate that receiver enough, it'll actually shut the lamp off.
Oh, quit it, Mr. Skeptic. That's enough.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you're walking on the street, though,
you're it's a little different, isn't it?
You don't have headlights, and you're still setting off the street lights as you're walking under them. That is the one that I'm more interested in that phenomena than I am the people that drive by and turn them off.
So, how many people out there have had this happen? Let us know. We really do want to know about this, because
sound off in the comments below.
Definitely sound off. Jess, you were dying to say something. I can read it because I'm psychic.
No, I had something that was inappropriate to say.
I figured you did. I thought you did.
Yeah. You know, walking down headlights. Anyway.
I knew exactly what
I do that from time to time. But yeah, the only time that's ever happened to me is when I have a huge O-light flashlight. So yeah, that never happened to me. So that's crazy that happens to you. That's very strange. Joe, do you think you might be haunted?
I might be. Ron says yes. I don't know. That's the light thing. Only really there's a few lights that in my old hometown that literally, like clockwork, like I could tell you which ones I was going to set off. And I don't know if there's a short in the wiring that makes them more sensitive.
Haunted.
Proof. He's haunted. I told
right
you.
There.
See,
you saw that, right?
This is a thing that happens all the time too. My my computer, my tech, all of it. Yeah. So you guys got to witness it this time.
Yeah, that was live. No editing whatsoever.
Right.
That absolutely happened.
So I don't know, the ones in my hometown, I don't know if they might had a short in them that made them a little bit more sensitive to EMF, and that I just triggered it. Because still to this day, like I can call them out before we get to them, and like that one's gonna go out, and then that one's gonna go out.
It could be synchronicity too, right? I mean, you know, hey, we got everything on the table.
We could, it could be Joe, your version volume 1.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Multiverse. Yes.
So that is a phenomenon that does occur. There's a lot of people that talk about their watches. They can't wear them. They break. It's they burn up the batteries. Computers are the same way.
Scanners at grocery stores. People, or multiple stories of people who, you know, the scanners at grocery stores don't work for them. I mean, just crazy stuff. And then we have to look at, well, why is that even, or how is it possible?
Well, my favorite thing is actually the ability to zap people.
Well, mine too, but I haven't quite mastered it yet, or you know, you would know.
It's only a mild, but I wish I could actually but straight up force lightning somebody. But no, Kelly and I, it annoys her to no end. We will be out and grocery shopping, and I can feel the energy. And if it gets to that point where I can feel it, I'm like, I can zap you, and like I'll just reach out and you hear, and it's like static shock will just come. Static will just build and build and build, and I'll be wearing shorts, rubber shoes, and we're on tile, and
Jealousy almost fire is what he's saying.
It's pretty funny.
Have you ever been really close to a lightning strike? I was on my back
3 times
when I was a kid, and I was on my back porch, and I all of a sudden I could feel it, and then I could taste it. It was very metallic, and all of a sudden it happened. And it was probably less than 100 feet away from me. And it struck a tree less than 100 feet away from me. But it was weird. I felt everything rise up, and then I could taste it, and then it was just bam, it happened.
Yes. Yeah, you can taste the iron, and you can smell the ionized air coming in, and it smells like a fried computer, essentially.
Well, guys, what we're trying to say is if you taste the air and you have strong static response and you're outside, you probably want to lay down. I believe that is the proper thing, right? Is that what you do? You make yourself very small.
You make yourself smaller than everything else.
Yeah. Is it crouch? It's crouch, right? I don't know. Correct me. I don't know.
You get down and tuck.
Is it duck and cover?
It's not duck. It's kind of like duck and cover. But you're not like,
I think it's just unasked situation.
There's been 3 times, and one of the times my work van was actually struck by lightning.
Okay.
It hit the back antenna and blew through and burned out all the circuitry in the back end of the van. Now we had a big rubber bulkhead that kept it from getting anything to the front, but it burned and messed up and cracked the windshield and all that stuff. Or not the windshield, but the rear glass.
Well, you have to remember why it struck it. I mean, it struck it because the ions are building up.
Yep.
So everything's kind of coming into balance and alignment, right? That's how electricity works.
Yeah.
This is kind of what's happening with these machines, and a lot of our modern technology is running, what's at the heart of this stuff? Crystals are at the heart of this stuff. Semiconductors. That's all. Yes. I'll one up you. There you go. Behold.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So crystals they have conductive properties. They absolutely have conductive properties.
Quartz batteries.
Yeah. And did we want to talk about like charging crystals?
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So every time there's a full moon, there's something that a lot of people do. I do it myself, but so if you do anything with crystals, if you use crystals in any sort of rituals or anything like that, they will sometimes absorb negative energy, or they'll lose positive energy in such a way that every full moon, a lot of people that practice witchcraft or any sort of ritual magic or anything like that, they will charge their crystals in the full moonlight. A lot of people will leave them out overnight in the moonlight and let them charge and kind of cleanse everything. Some people will leave them in the moonlight and then in the sunlight, and then they use them for a month and then recharge them again. Another practice that we actually do is a lot of the weapons that we take out with us, we actually charge our weapons, like this one here. It has an antler bone as the handle, but we charge a lot of our weapons in full moonlight, and especially on significant full moons, like a hunter's moon or a blood moon or something like that. And we'll do a ritual and we'll charge our weapons under moonlight. And it's supposed to use the power of the moon to bring everything back into balance and bring it back to power and imbibe it with certain properties of protection and power. And so a lot of people practice that with crystallology and we do it with weapons, of course, because we do everything with weapons. But that's a very common practice.
Yes.
I mean, and you know that the moon has effect on the earth. It has effect on the oceans. These are organic materials. Everything is organic materials that we're talking about here. So the moon is working in conjunction with these things. It's a pulling energy. It's the gravity. It's the energy. It's the light. It's the magnetism. It's everything all together. And it seems to work together to imbibe it with this power.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what's really cool about what you just said about the weapons and whatnot? The whole thing, it's the same thing that our ancestors did. You know, it's the same thing. It's a harkening back to that ancient technology that they had. The belief that, you know, they could endow this, you know, this power into their weapons and into their, you know, into their healing, you know, elements as well. Crystals. A lot of tribes used that, healing stones, healing crystals. You know, this was, to them, this was not witchcraft. This was a way of life. This was, you know, it was not mysticism. It was just the way it is. This is the way, and that is how it was. And I think it was just really, it was labels. Again, it's labels. You know, it's things we didn't understand. It got labeled into this, oh, that's a cult, or that's evil, that's this. It's misunderstood technology from a time when we simply had no idea. And what blows my mind is that they managed to do this. It's documented. These vibrational frequencies, even down to the hertz, guys. I mean, I'm a believer, and I don't say that too much to a lot of things. You know that. But I've seen too much when it comes to crystals and their effect to deny that anymore. I learned a very long time ago how to manipulate that energy, and it works. You know, I don't use it for weapons. Maybe I should, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's mostly just for, you know, attuning, you know, I guess now it's called the aura, but it's, you know, your life fields and whatnot. I do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a part of what our ancestors did. We knew how to do this at one time. We forgot.
Well, I mean, I'm out there with a Glock in the moonlight, so.
Is it a charged Glock? I mean, because that's a special weapon. I'm pretty sure if we were playing like a really cool video game here, you would have some really legendary stuff, is what I'm getting at.
I would. Well, actually, you know, I do. This is something that I actually do. I do perform rituals on the weapons that we take into the woods. And when I do these rituals, I do it, yes, on knives. I do it, yes, on our tomahawks. I also do it on our guns, because when we go out into the woods, we always carry guns. Joe and I both carry handguns, and I perform rituals on our handguns. That's something that I do. I absolutely.
You have to remember, you're out there and you're trying to confront things that are not exactly physical.
Yeah.
Or may not be exactly physical, right? So makes sense to me. I mean, I'm just saying. I think that makes perfect sense. Joe, did you just did you have a visitor there? Was there?
Yeah, that was weird.
What was that? What was that?
There was just a weird noise that came from over that way, and that was just odd because I mean, my dog's back there hiding on the couch, but whatever this was came from.
I don't know. I thought I saw something on the camera. I don't know. I'm going to have to back that up when I go back for real, because I thought I saw something when you did that. So I don't know. Anyway, that's interesting and in a really interesting time. But
right. So right at this point, because we've talked about the crystals, is there anything else you guys want to cover on the crystals and whatnot? Because I mean,
we could do a whole show on crystals. We could do a whole show, and we will one day. Let's do that.
You need to come to a rock show with us one day, Jess. I think that'd be a blast for you.
I'm a rock freak. I like every time I go anywhere. Joe and I are walking around, and I'm looking down, and I was like, I have to find the rock that I'm going to take home. Like I'm
the same way.
They're always full of rocks.
When funny story, this is just a off topic kind of, but it goes with what you're saying. Me and Ron are the exact same way. And what's really funny is my son is the exact same way, and he's not even 2 yet.
But you bought
So
him his first rock when he was still in the womb.
Yeah,
let's not
it's
forget
true.
this.
I did. I bought him his first. I actually started building his collection while Kelly was pregnant with him.
Right.
It's still sitting on his mantle.
Mm-hmm.
But Ron and I were at OBC this year. This year. It was this year's OBC.
Sure.
And we were walking around and we started seeing all these big, like fist-sized rocks, and they were nice and smooth and semi-polished.
Yeah, dude.
And we started like, wait a minute. So we started kicking them around and moving them, and everybody was looking at us like we were crazy. And we're pulling out some of the coolest rocks, like big quartz veins running through them, fossils, and huge like fossilized coral clusters were in this stuff. And we knew they were fossilized because they're also agatized.
Mm-hmm.
So, these weren't fresh coral. These were fossilized coral.
Wow.
And there was like, you'd turn it over and look at it, and you'd look down into the body, and the entire insides were just agatized.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so cool. So we brought home probably 10 pounds of rocks from that event.
Easy. I think everywhere we go, we pick up rocks. Honestly.
We do. We find some kind of cool rock. And speaking of cool rocks, I'm going to hop up real quick.
I'll hop up. Okay. He's hopping up.
All right. So this show has now become Rock Show and Tell.
I like it. We could do a whole series of just this.
This one stays in the living room just because I haven't.
What you got there, buddy? What is that? It looks like a rock.
This is sandstone. Nothing special, except for the fact that this was thrown at me.
Oh, that rock.
Yeah, this was thrown at me in the forest, and in an area where West Virginia is covered in sandstone, but I'm up on the ridge. There's no sandstone in the sky that could have been crumbled and fell. Yeah. So this was thrown at me, and so this is the rock that I got in the living room. This is a cool rock.
If that came from the sky, you would know it.
Oh, I know, because we have some of the stones that come from the sky. We got a lot of those.
I think you would know it if that came from the sky.
Yeah. So yeah, we're rock hounds, and we like rocks. So
moving on.
All right. Moving on. Back on the energy, and we were talking earlier about devices that can measure energy. Now, in a normal application where you would be having a device measuring energy, you would maybe be a home inspector or a contractor of some sort that's going through to look for repairs and measuring to see if there's a short in a wall somewhere where there's stray electricity coming out, or to see if there's something going on with heating, cooling, things of that nature. Now, some of those very same meters can be used in the paranormal field of research, and those are devices that Ron and Jesse and I all carry out on regular occurrences, but the energy can still be drained. And let's just hypothetically say, when a ghost drains the energy from your electronics, what is that like? Because I know Ron has experienced this. Jesse, I don't know if you have. I know you had experienced something with a recorder that just went completely kaput.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to both talk about your individual favorites.
You're not going to meet too many people who investigate the paranormal who say this has never happened. I mean, this is common. Go ahead, Jess.
So what we've had this happen so many times when we're out and about, and it's so frustrating because we take so much tech out with us. We take cameras, we take meters, we take EMF readers, everything. We take all this stuff out. One of the most annoying things is when the cameras, we test everything before we leave the house. We make sure the dates are all correct and everything. The times are all correct on everything. We do all of that because it's so frustrating to go through all the footage that we get and not have all that info. So we test the sound, test everything. And it's very frustrating that you're out there, everything's going great. We have backup batteries for everything, and the cameras just keep going dead. The cameras keep going dead. And then things start happening as soon as the cameras go dead. or the camera's sound just doesn't work randomly. And there, you have to go through a whole process on these cameras to turn the sound off. And we don't do that. But stuff like that happens to us all the time. And then with our devices that we use to measure, like our EMF reader, our battery was just going down like crazy. We were starting to get spikes, and you could say maybe it was because it was very active and being used a lot, but it just started just draining. But the most common thing that happens with us in our work is our cameras. Our cameras just start draining, and it goes from full battery to completely dead within just a minuscule amount of time. It would be like 10 minutes. You put a new battery in, and then you're going. 10 minutes later, camera's off. You're not recording. And then weird stuff starts to happen. That's why we always have backups for everything. We're always recording with something and always have audio going. And that's we've missed so many cool things because of this battery drain issue.
No, you're absolutely spot on with that. And what you just said, you said something really cool happens. And that is exactly what typically happens. There's a battery drain, and then something happens. There's a sound, there's a sighting, there's something. And you don't have, the camera's not running. And Joe, you've seen this. We kind of blew it off a couple of times. But when we were down at TNT, down at the bunkers, when we were filming, multiple times, the gimbal quit working. There was no reason for that gimbal to do what it did, and it completely quit working.
Bonkers.
Yeah, it like spun around in circles, and then all of a sudden it's dead. It's dead.
Now, mind you, it is a much more sensitive piece of equipment than, say, your phone or your camera. This gimbal is very delicate.
Yep.
And very, I guess you could say, we could probably be prone to those kind of issues if there's something going on around it.
Only if you're moving it. This was
no. Like what I'm saying is, like, it would be prone, it would be more prone than, say, some of our other more sophisticated equipment to having some kind of interference with it.
It definitely had interference,
and it was going crazy.
And I remember on the one shoot, we took it off the gimbal and shot it, the rest of it by hand, because Maria was running it. And if you watch the footage, she's like, something's going on here, and all of a sudden it just flips straight up to the sky.
Yeah,
and no reason whatsoever. And then of course there's battery drain all the time, and we've had that happen down there. Like I said, we usually just write it off pretty much there, because it's a weird place. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a really weird place. And we kind of expect something like that. But yeah, we've had multiple instances of that. I know me and Dave Roberts, back when we were with Ghostwatch, we had incidents where we saw a lot of battery drain. We saw static buildup in charges and whatnot with some of the equipment. And, there was so many weird things. And, I always had that whole theory about that. And, it has come to play. A lot of people believe the same thing. Something's pulling energy. So this is all energy-based stuff. I mean, I think we can all kind of agree on that. This all relates to energy in some way. So something seems to be pulling energy, and it uses that energy to manifest in some way or form. I don't know how. It could be RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. It could be, psychokinetic energy. I don't know, but whatever it is. Say again.
Spook lights.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, and both of you have witnessed that, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, guys, I don't know what it is, but there's definitely does seem to be a real phenomenon there that it's happened to too many people. Anyone out there that's an investigator, or if you have a story about strange battery drain, drop them in. I want to hear about it. We all want to hear about this. Tell us we're not crazy, because it can't just be us and a couple of our friends.
We're crazy.
Yeah,
we are crazy. But this doesn't have anything to do with that. So, guys, battery drain, very real. What's causing it? No idea, but something.
So in terms of spook lights, so the battery drain, that can often result in something like spook lights occurring. Spook lights are a phenomenon where you're in the woods, and a lot of times these are accompanied by Bigfoot sightings. But if you're in the woods and you just see a disembodied light in the distance.
Mhm.
There was an instance, we've seen several of these in our time, and then we've also seen them in different colors and different configurations. But there was one time we were in Lost Cove. This is in North Carolina. This is an abandoned settlement in North Carolina. It's a really rough hike down. We hiked down the mountain into where Lost Cove is. It's only accessible by this very, very hard trail. We get down there, we're walking around all day, we're investigating, we're doing all this stuff. It gets dark, we investigate at night, and then we decide to do the really hard hike back up. And it takes a long time to hike up because it's a heartbreaker of a trail. So we're hiking up, and we know that there's nobody down there because we had been all over the place, and there's only one way in or out. So we know there's nobody down there. There's nobody behind us. We know it. We know it for a fact. There's no other way to access this but the way we came in. So we're hiking out. It's late at night, and we look down into the valley below us where the settlement is. And there's still some houses. There's a cemetery. There's a few things left behind. We look down behind us, and there we see, as we're walking up, Joe saw it happen first. It's like a reddish orange light, and it just blinks into existence and then goes away like that. And he just yelled, "Oh my God, did you see that? Oh my God, did you see that?" I didn't see it. I didn't see that first time. It's like, no, I didn't see it. All right, let's keep going. We're filming and everything like that. We're going up this trail. It's killer. We're fighting our way up. And I turn, I guess, at the right moment. And there I see this big reddish orange light. And it just comes into existence down in the valley where the houses and everything are. Comes into existence, sits there for a second, and then goes out. And there is nothing natural that can explain a reddish orange light that just comes, and it looked like it was about the size of a headlight, and it just on and then off, and it was shocking. And then we kept going, we kept looking as we're hiking up because we're trying to get out of there too. And then we look down and we start flashing at it with a flashlight and trying to get it to respond, and then it responds, and then we'll do 2 flashes, and then it'll go 1, 2. We know there's nobody down there. So there's like an intelligence to these things. But
that's
whatever
wild.
it is, if it's paranormal, if it's ghosts, if it's whatever it is, it takes an extreme amount of energy to come up and create that light, that can be seen from such a distance. So it was just shocking to see, and it was like so cool to see. That was one of our best spook light instances that we had. We actually got them on camera, but we were using the night vision that we had at the time, so it was black and white. So all you see is the little light come on and then go out, but you can see the light come on. But yeah, there's almost like an intelligence to them sometimes.
Yeah, and we hear that with spook lights, ghost lights. That a lot of the legends in the local area say that they're the spirits of people, right? Like, spirits of, I think one of them's like, what was it? Some braves or something. I remember one of them being like that. There's always a legend that attributes, and they seem very intelligent, like you said. I mean, that's the one thing I haven't seen. So, you guys have me up on that one. That's the one thing I haven't seen so far. So,
up until last year, I was in your camp, and then that was just bizarre. But
right,
and you guys have heard the story before on here.
And you can go back and listen to that. I'll actually put the link in where he talks about that, and that was a game changer for you, right, Joe?
It was.
Yep.
That was wild. Because I'd never seen anything like that before. That was at that low on the ground. UFO in the sky, that's something different. Some strange disembodied light, 6 feet off the ground. That's new.
But what you're describing is the exact same thing, and this is what witnesses everywhere describe. They're approximately, less than a foot, maybe a foot max. I mean, they're very small. Yeah, they're either bluish white or they're reddish orange. That seems to be the primary color of all these things. So there's definitely something there, and it seems to be repeated. A lot of people have seen them and don't know what they are. Could be a lot of things.
So,
go ahead.
speaking of things being repeated,
Mhm.
speaking of things being repeatable, is there scientific validation for any of the stuff that we've talked tonight?
Yeah, there actually is. We know that things vibrate, right? We know that that's been measured, that's been proven. So we know that there actually is a vibration, right? We don't know that they're related to the paranormal in the ways that we have suggested. That's speculation, but it's
Because odds are
definitely,
this is a very natural phenomena.
Right.
it very well could be, right? And it's something we don't quite understand. I mean, we are just basically at the tip of even trying to understand this. Same thing with the UFO, UAP thing. We don't know. There's a lot of people in the schools of thought now that this is just something that belongs here that we don't quite understand. Some of them. That we're not really dealing with a bolts type situation. That this is something that's non-physical. So, I don't know what you would call that, energy form, of some sort, I guess, that's sentient. I don't know. I mean, did we all just name those things all these years? Probably. We probably did, actually.
Right. Right.
So there's actionable things that people are doing to prove this kind of thing is real. So there's a product out there that I was looking into that is really, really cool. They're called Hex Suits, and it's not Hex with an X. It's HECS, and they are human energy concealment systems. And the fiber that these shirts and pants, and they have masks and hats and gloves, everything. The fiber is lined with a carbon fiber yarn, so that when your human energy, because you put off energy, correct?
Yep.
They think that wildlife can see that it's on a spectrum that wildlife can see. Mostly migratory birds are more sensitive to it than other animals.
Yeah.
But and because they have more of a sense of electricity and magnetism and everything like that, is kind of an explanation for that. So they think that game animals can see your energy that you put off. So they've come up with this whole concept of the Hex stealth screen thing. So you put on these suits, and it's an interwoven carbon fiber yarn on the inside of these clothing articles. And so your energy actually hits that carbon fiber and dissipates. And so it's not coming off your body anymore because it's dissipating off that yarn. And so people are able to get close to 57 to 60% closer to game animals than if they didn't have these. They're able to basically walk up to game animals and shoot them because they are not sensing them as a threat. They see them as an inanimate object because that energy is not coming off their bodies anymore. It's being dissipated by this clothing. It's absolutely fascinating. It is so cool. But it's HECS stealth screen. Check it out. Look it up. It's really cool. And I want to get some just to see if it, and I want to take it out.
Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's a game changer for everything, right?
It would be, yeah.
So
I was gonna say I need to look into getting some of that myself.
It's a wearable Faraday cage. That's really what you've got. That's awesome.
We say that spirits or ghosts or anything like that, they put off some sort of electromagnetic energy that's measurable, because when you're doing any kind of investigation and you have spikes, that seems to indicate ghostly activity. This could indicate why animals like dogs and cats see things that we don't see in our homes, that they're more sensitive to these electromagnetic fields. So perhaps these animals can see spiritual beings, that we can't perceive, because we can't see those electromagnetic fields.
I mean, cats.
Yeah.
Anybody that has cats.
They'll freak you out sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, one cool thing is they've discovered a molecule in canine eyes it's called cryptochrome. So I thought you'd like that. But yeah.
That's good.
Oh, nice. I like that.
That's what senses the electromagnetic fields.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
and
it.
then one other thing, and I know we're coming closer to the end, but I had to like mention this because I'm completely obsessed right now. I'm completely obsessed right now with Ron Moorhead's book, The Quantum Bigfoot. This
Good
is
book.
his
Good
whole
God.
thing. This is all about energy. Everything's about energy. Everything
All
is
about energy.
And the reason that
We're
sometimes these things are
it's like a cult around here now. Everybody.
the reason that Sasquatch is able to cloak as people have reported this sort of like predator effect that goes on. The reason that Sasquatch is able to cloak is perhaps that it is a sort of an alien human hybrid that has abilities beyond what we could know or understand, and that it has the ability to go into a different sort of vibrational energy and convert its energy and go into maybe a fourth or a fifth dimension and completely disappear. And it sounds so out there in a way, but at the same time, a lot of this stuff is completely backed up by science. It's completely backed up by these theories and these proven things that we know about. We're just not there to the point where we know this is what's going on. But it's one hell of a theory, and it's the more I think about it, the more I hear about it, the more I look into it, the more plausible it's almost the more plausible
it's
it
really
sounds.
intriguing.
Yeah.
There's a lot in that book that is just really good information, and it's definitely a suggested read.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys. I mean, who's to say, right? I mean, the thing is, we're dealing with energies and mysticism, and you can understand why it was looked at as magical and mystic. I mean, how did our ancestors know about this stuff? How did they know to build, these places around the world where sound would resonate at a certain frequency? That 110 hertz thing that,
The
which is
God
amazing.
frequency.
There's a God frequency as well, but the 110 hertz thing is the ones that a lot of the Buddhist monks, they would chant and resonate, and there's other temples around the world that are built the same specifications.
Yeah.
How did they know that? That's like, this is advanced
I've been able to
technology.
meditate in some of those places that are tuned to that frequency, and it is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
that's really I can't go into a whole lot beyond that without just sounding absolutely out of my mind.
Well, it does make you sound absolutely out of your mind when you deal with these things, because I said it before. We know they work. We don't know why they work. That's the problem with, things like this. We know that this is much more than just a rock. This is not an inanimate object. It is vibrating right now at a specific frequency. I cannot remember the frequency exactly, but it is vibrating right now at that frequency. But it looks like it's standing perfectly still. Now, what is that vibration doing? Is it just in this constant state of flux? Because it kind of is. It's not really a solid or a liquid, is it? Because it's really in this constant state of flux. Think about that. So, I don't know. I know that there's a lot more to this than we would probably ever have time to go over. Huge respect to anyone in the metaphysical, business, I guess, basically, because, to understand this stuff, it's not something you're going to just pick up a book. This is years and years of practice and research. And there's something to it. I don't know what it is, guys. That's my personal take on it. I don't know what you think, but that's how I think. I think that there's energy there.
There's energy there. It's been measurable. There's something there. Do we understand it all? Probably not. Will we ever understand it all? Most likely. It's just going to take more time. But I believe we are here up against a good spot to end at this point and wrap this one up. If unless there's any more stuff you want to add in.
No, we can talk about this forever. What is it?
I said I made my Ron Moorhead shout out. I'm done.
You did. That was good.
I'm absolutely upset. I'm like obsessed right now, and I'm obsessed with this idea and this concept of the human alien hybrid Bigfoot. That's just I'm completely.
Ron's been on that train for a long time.
I was on that train probably
way before we were ever doing Wild and Weird.
Yeah. That was kind of my take on this whole thing. And honestly, the only person I've ever heard who actually validated that was Giorgio, which is hilarious. But yeah, I think there's more to it. I mean, that's just me. I'm sorry. That's me. I didn't say it was an alien. I just said there's more to it. So.
Well, guys, I think that's going to wrap us up for tonight. Thank you for listening to us and hanging out with us in your car, in your home, at work, wherever you are listening to Wild and Weird Radio right now. Thank you. And if you want to listen to more Wild and Weird Radio, you can find us anywhere podcasts are found, or you can go to our website, wildandweirdwv.com. Click on the podcast link, and it's going to open our entire backlog. You will be able to go back and listen to day one forward and tune in to us weekly. We're probably going to change our drop date from Mondays to another day in the week because we are changing our recording date for the new Wild and Weird Radio. And it is going to be put out there on the internet and on the web, all of that stuff for you guys. That way you'll have a heads up. But our new drop date will probably be midweek or closer to Friday, but that'll be regular starting with this episode. So whatever day this episode drops on, it will drop the following week on the same day. We're just ironing out a few kinks. So hang in there with us. I know we've been gone for a while, but we are back and we are not going anywhere. So
subscribe to the YouTube. We actually have people subscribing, which is crazy. It's amazing. Thank you.
And actually, if you guys could just share this with somebody that you think would be interested in this, that means a whole lot to us. And that really helps us kind of go up in the numbers and everything like that. The more people that are involved in this, the better. And that's the whole thing we said about CryptidCon, is the more people we have involved in this, listening to these podcasts, looking into the subject, the better. We love it. This is like our main focus in our lives. And if you have somebody that you want to share it with and have these discussions with, please do that. We really, really appreciate it.
And if you had a sighting yourself and you want to come on the show and tell us about it, just shoot us an email at wildandweirdwv@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website and click Contact Us and send in your detailed sighting report there. We'll even add it to our sighting maps that we've created. And again, share, subscribe. You know, there's a Bigfoot out in the woods right now that is going to die if you don't mash that subscribe button right now. But if you go touch that subscribe button and you press it and then you hit the notification bell, then he's going to survive. He's going to make it. It's going to be okay.
I believe that.
So make sure you go and just save a Bigfoot today and hit that subscribe and alert button. And the next thing you know, we'll have enough subscribers where we can do a live show with you guys and have people here with us on real time.
It will also contact the alien homeworld.
Yeah.
And they will bring gifts to humanity.
Okay, before this goes any further, stay wild and weird, everybody.